Hello, I hope you're well. So over the past year, my TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest have all picked up on the fact that knitting content does extremely well with me. So I keep getting fed more and more of it. And what I've realized with my content consumption is that my number one most saved type of item are colorwork sweaters. Any sweater with like a design on the front, even just like a plain stripe or a more intricate pattern, I love. I eat it up. I save it every time. It never fails to catch my eye. And some of these patterns are so beautiful. But before this summer, I'd never attempted colorwork myself and I didn't know if my skills were up to the job. But over the summer, I have made two tops, one with stranded colorwork, the second using duplicate stitch. And I've just started on a scarf. I'll show you it. So this is from my hooks and needles subscription box. I thought I was gonna do the beginner pattern in the subscription box, but I ended up choosing the advanced level pattern to try and like hone my skills. And I'm making this colorwork scarf, and it is the most addicting knit that I have ever done. This is like 2 evenings worth of work, and both evenings I stayed up like an hour later than I normally do just because I couldn't put this down. Colorwork is maybe, it's not mindless, but I really enjoy it. So it's made me think like all these patterns that I've saved, I could probably attempt some of them. However, I've got way too many. I'm just hoarding them. So I put them all on a big list, and then I thought I would share them with you because they're all so beautiful and like someone needs to make them. Like one of us needs to put in the hours here and make these because they're so gorgeous. So I'm gonna try and like give you like some stats about it, like the number of sizes and the type of yarn and stuff, but all the links will be in the description, so if you're interested in any of these you can see the more specifics down there. Oh, also I should probably say that hooks and needles kit was gifted to me and I did previously work with them, but not this, it isn't sponsored, although I do still have an affiliate link if you want to click that and get 20% off. Anyway, right, it's pattern number 1, Sebastian sweater by Juicy Loose. This is not only Pinterest worthy, it is already all over Pinterest. I find Pinterest actually quite a bad place to find knitting patterns because there's so many ads, and like every other Pinterest photo is like just an actual sweater being sold by Shein or whatever. But this sweater is doing the rounds and it never fails to catch my eye. This is a pretty basic construction sweater with this massive lobster design on the front, which is done in intarsia. But I think the designer also does give you the option to do it with duplicate stitch if you've never done intarsia before. I've never done intarsia before. I actually don't know the difference between intarsia and stranded colorwork. I've tried to look it up, I don't get it. I think I just need to do intarsia and then I'll understand it. This sweater is knitted in worsted weight yarn and it comes in 9 sizes. I love the contrasting detail on the collar and the hems. I think that's such a nice touch. It reminds me a lot of like the blanket stitch hem detail that we've seen before. I think that was kind of trendy last year. I still love that. The next pattern is the halibut sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I promise they're not all like sea themed, it's just these two. And wait, three of them are sea themed. That's a lot, I know, but fish are trending, right? Like those little tins of sardines. Weird thing to trend, but we move. I love this. This is the only like sort of modern classic Fair Isle jumper in this list. There's so many like modern adaptations of Fair Isle jumpers, especially on Etsy. Like there's lots of like sun and moon ones. I think I saw on Etsy like a Star Wars Fair Isle, but I think that those are still do look quite classic, or they remind me a lot of like Christmas jumpers. This halibut one I love because I think it's funny. I think this is just, it's a joke, but it actually does look good too. And I think anyone would do a double take if they saw you in this. I especially love the color scheme of like a white base with like a petrol blue or like a denim blue contrast color for the fish. I think that would look so good. This is knit using a circular yoke, and there's 3 options for the neck. There's a turtleneck, a mock turtleneck, or a crew neck, so you can really customize this, because one thing about me is I hate turtlenecks. They do not look good. There are so many patterns out there that are beautiful, but they have turtlenecks and I just need to like close my eyes and scroll past them because they're not for me. This pattern has 10 sizes, love to see it, and it's knit in a DK weight and it's knit top down. I also feel like maybe this one would work for a Christmas jumper or a Christmas gift jumper. I'm sure this must be able to be made unisex because I think like this would look good on all genders. The next pattern is a crochet pattern. There are 2 crochet patterns in this list that I just couldn't move off or replace with other knitting patterns because they've been on my to knit list for so long. This is the retro flower pattern by Realm Designs. This is knit in a bulky yarn and there's 9 sizes available, and the reason that I can't stop thinking about this is because of one of the samples is knit in this beautiful like bright baby blue colour with a red flower in the middle. That particular sample looks like it wouldn't be too heavy, especially like under a coat, but I love the colours and I imagine this would be such a quick project if you're into crochet. Keeping with the flower trend, the next pattern is the fluffy tulip sweater by Hip Knit Shop. There is also a non-fluffy version available, but the fluffy one looks so good and so 80s inspired as well, like the big stripes of tulip across it. I think it looks like something you could find in a vintage shop, but you can make it yourself. And if you knit this in like a brushed alpaca instead of, I think the pattern says mohair, it would be super soft. There are 2 points against this sweater though, them being that it's knitted bottom up and there's only 3 sizes available, which isn't great. Moving swiftly on to another pattern which has 9 sizes available, which is much better, is the tarot card sweater by Starcross Knits. I think I first saw this sweater before I even started knitting, and it's the sort of thing that my inner 18-year-old that was like, you know, on Tumblr, had a tapestry up in her uni holes, did tarot card readings at house parties, she would have been obsessed with this. Like, I need to make this for her. It also looks like such a fun chart to follow, and the pattern actually comes with 5 or 6 multiple charts. There's tarot cards for the star, the sun, the moon, the lovers, death, and the knitter. This would be such a good sweater to knit if you're like into that alternative style or like the whimsy goth core revival that's happening now. But I want to own this, man. I want to own this. I feel like this is the sort of thing that people will ask you where it's from and you get to say that you made it when you wear it out. Okay, so this sweater is worked top down. The body is worked flat and the collar and the sleeves are worked on the round. The pattern is knitted in sport weight yarn, but I had a look on Ravelry and some of the projects are knit in DK weight, so I think you could get away with either. This next sweater is another one that's been all over like Instagram and Pinterest, and it's the Checkmate sweater by Skabagtig. Yeah, it's sorry Denmark, Skabagtig. This is knitted from the bottom up in stockinette stitches with long stitches to create the pattern. So I think this could be, don't quote me on this, quite a good pattern to start off with some colour work if you wanted to do an all over colour work sweater. I think all over colour work sweaters are definitely the biggest labour of love, whereas just putting a chart on the front, for instance, like the last sweater, it is less time consuming because then you're doing an entire back piece that's just like a plain stockinette. This pattern's available in 10 sizes and it's knitted up in a bulky weight yarn. I think this one would also look so good with more of a monochrome palette, like if you did like shades of blue or shades of grey, you could make a really nice basic neutral sweater that has just a little bit more interest than if it were plain. Right, this next one's a bit cheeky because it's a cardigan, but I'm going to sneak it in because I love how it looks and I've been obsessed with Lipple's patterns recently. This is the Emma Cardi by Lippo. This would be a great project for using up your scrap yarn and it's available in 10 sizes. I think the sample is knitted up in like a fingering weight fluffy yarn, but I've also seen on Ravelry people use DK weight, and I think the little openings down the front of the cardigan look really chic and like it would be a really good going out top as well. This is knitted in a top down stockinette, so I think it's probably one of the easier patterns on this list. This next one I've had my eye on since I first saw the designer knitting it up on Instagram. This is the QTT by Knit Slip. I haven't bought the pattern, so I'm not sure if it is just a t-shirt, but I have seen on their Instagram they knitted a long sleeve version which looks beautiful. But I also think it could look good as a vest if you're looking for a vest. This is knit in worsted weight yarn. Now the pattern only has sizes extra small to medium, but the designers put a note in that the size is customizable. I don't know if that's like put on you to use your skills as a knitter to figure out your size, or if it's included in the pattern, but yeah. There is another sweater coming up that looks pretty similar to this one that is available in a lot more sizes. Okay, this next pattern is a bit of a 3-in-1 because I couldn't decide on my favourite from this designer, and they're all a bit too similar to have as 3 separate ones. So I first want to talk about the Piet sweater by Kolibri by Johanna, or Johanna? Again, I think she's Dutch. Let's go with Johanna. Sorry if I'm wrong. This is a gorgeous plaid design, and honestly I wish my family tartan wasn't ugly because I'd be knitting this in my family tartan's colours otherwise, but I think this would look so good with like the Burberry plaid colours. I don't think it would look just so like chic and expensive, but obviously like I love the samples and these super bright colours too. This is knit top down with 7 sizes and a DK weight, and the other patterns that I love from this designer are the Max sweater, which is a bit more of a simple check grid, and then the funky Gustav sweater, which just looks wonderful. This one's kind of like a plaid, but the horizontal stripes are wavy. This designer chooses some amazing fun colours for their designs, but also, again, if you did this like with a tonal shades of white and beige, this would be such an elevated basic sweater. Right, this next pattern is another 2-in-1 because I have decision fatigue and I can't possibly choose between 2 similar patterns. So both of these patterns are based off of a sweater from a Pippi Longstocking film. They are the Pippy Pullover by Kiss Kiss Rhinestones and the Lindgren sweater by Knitting for Olive. Both of these are knitted up in worsted weight yarn, and the main difference is that the shape of the stitches is slightly different between the patterns, and the Knitting for Olive one has like a curved, beautiful curved hem design. For sizing, so the Kiss Kiss Rhinestones one is available for free, but only in one size, like the size that the designer knitted it. It hasn't been graded for other sizes. But the Knitting for Olive one, whilst it isn't free, it is available in 9 sizes. The original colour scheme, which is the same as the colour scheme on Pippi Longstocking sweater, is so chic, like the white with the red and the blue stripes. Like just that with like any colour of jeans, right? Like a blue jean, a white jean, a black jean, and then like black boots and a black handbag and a black belt. Easy peasy. Such a nice outfit. Okay, next we've got another Knitting for Olive pattern. These are the only 2 in there. I could have put so many more in, but I'm trying to resist like this list just being like petite knit, Knitting for Olive, because we've probably already seen them all. I'm trying to be a little bit different. This is the Anemone sweater. This has small flowers all over it in like, I think a Fair Isle style of knitting. It's gorgeous. This is the sort of thing that would really catch my eye in a high street shop. Like this looks like something that like a really nice high street shop would put out, and I would feel it and like try it on and then not buy it because it would be like £100. But if I were to knit it with £100 worth of material, that's different, right? It's completely different. This is worked bottom up, has 8 sizes and is a DK weight. Oh, okay, this next one is a really good one. I think this might be my favourite one on the list. And again, it's 3 sweaters in one because they're too similar to split up, but they're all great and I need to mention all of them. So this is the Porcelain Sweater by Lynette. This has 6 sizes and it's knit in a DK weight. There's also a different version of this colour work available in a circular yoke design that is just like a completely different fit from a raglan, but I personally would prefer the raglan, although I think for maybe a men's sweater the circular yoke may fit better. I love this because it looks so classic but also so modern at the same time. Like it's one of those ones where you could probably keep it for the rest of your life and you're never going to get bored of it, it's never going to go out of style, but it doesn't look like it was made 50 years ago. I don't know how to phrase it. It's just great, and I love the colour. Like the blue on the right is really like evocative of porcelain. And then the other sweater that I wanted to talk about from the same designer is the Terracotta sweater. This also has a beautiful colour scheme of like a rust terracotta red with white. the kind of like, I'm guessing this is what the designer is inspired by, but it really reminds me of like terracotta vases that you see in museums when you go on holiday to Greece when you're 6 years old and your parents take you to that museum and all there is pots, but like not in a traumatic way, like in a nice memory kind of way. That's a bit too much of a unique experience, but we're moving on. The terracotta sweater has panels of texture as well as the colour work. I think that's the main difference between the two, and they're both worked top down. I can't decide which one I like more. I love them both. This is again really high up on my want to knit list. This is a bit of a rogue recommendation, but it's coming off the back of my attempt, well, my successful attempt to knit a 50-year-old sirdar vintage pattern. Now, I found that pattern on Etsy being sold by an independent seller, but I didn't realise at the time, but only through further research and actually linking stuff through that video, I found out that Sirdar, like the website for Sirdar that currently sells their modern patterns and their yarn, also sells their vintage catalogue of patterns. And there's so many cool ones on there, like more than I could ever scroll through, but I found some really good ones even with just a brief look. So if you're wanting to knit like a true, not just 80s inspired, but like a true 80s sweater, 90s sweater, 70s, 60s, whatever, really recommend doing that. And I think you can do that with drops as well. Although what I will say from my experience of knitting that sirdar pattern from the 70s is to not expect the same experience that you have in modern patterns, and to not expect the same size range either. Like if you're a beginner knitter, I would stay away from these. So from my brief scroll, I found two patterns from the 80s that I really liked. One is this vertical striped sweater that has a really cool striped collar that I've not seen anywhere else. I think that's really unique, and it's available for a bust size between 30 and 44 inches and knit in a DK weight. There's another one on the Sirdar website that also caught my eye, this little red sheep sweater that really reminded me of something that Princess Diana would wear. So if you're like the sort of person that exclusively shops at vintage shops, I would recommend that as a resource. Next is the famous wave sweater by Spectacle Strick. If you haven't seen this on Instagram, then you're probably not on knitting Instagram at all. I couldn't escape this last winter, and I wasn't even deep into the community, and for good reason. Like, it is absolutely stunning and it photographs so well. This is worked top down in a worsted weight yarn, and it only has 4 sizes, but they're very loose sizes, so they go up to an XXL. I've seen this in so many colour combinations and they all look great. This pattern and the projects that people have knitted with this pattern really make me want to experiment with colour. There are so many beautiful options here, although this has got a little bit of a turtleneck, but I think I have seen some modifications where people just knitted it to be a lot shorter and it ended up as a round neck. I want this, and I think it's something that if you were to bump into another knitter, they would know what it was and they would know that you hand knit it, but otherwise I think this would be another one where everyone's asking you where you got it from. Then while I was on the Spectacle Strick website looking to get a link to this, I saw the Stripe Overload Polo and I fell in love with this pattern. This is the only pattern in this list with a little cute polo neck, and I love that detail. I would love to try and knit that. I've never knit like a collared sweater. This pattern reminds me a lot of like rugby shirts, but it's in a worsted weight yarn, so it would be a really good winter sweater. This has 7 sizes and it's knitted top down. Okay, we've reached our last marine life sweater and the second crochet pattern as well. This is the Fishy Alex sweater by Woolen Buggers. This one I love because it reminds me of vintage sweatshirts specifically, like those really big men's sweatshirts with really cool like embroidered motifs on the front, and I think you get multiple charts for different kinds of fish. This is a completely unisex pattern and I think this just looks so good, man. It looks so cool, and it's got 9 sizes. It's knitted with worsted weight yarn. Also, as an honorary mention from the same designer, they have a sweater called the Hugh Gull sweater, which has got seagull designs on it on both the front and the back. They're different seagull designs. This is a bit more on the nose than the halibut sweater, but I love it all the same. Next, we've got the Future MILF / DILF Who's in Knit by Camille Weinberg. This is knitted bottom up and only has 3 sizes available, but I absolutely love the design of this. Like the hood is so cool, and the ribbing that goes up to the torso is, again, like, it looks very designer. I think like the actual font is for a very certain type of person. I would love to make it, I think it's really cool, but you can also customize the text to read whatever you want. I think I saw one on Instagram and someone had customized it to say fuck patriarchy, so you can really do whatever you want with this one. And there's also another design in the same sort of collection by the designer called the bow knit pattern, and that one goes so hard. Like, it's such a unique, beautiful pattern with a bow neck and really cool ribbing on the short sleeves and the hem, and they are knitted in worsted weight yarn. This next pattern I think ranks number 1 on the list of something that looks like a designer would put out. This is the Wild Horses sweater by Azure. This is vintage 1990s, and I can really imagine like one of the high-end fashion houses putting out something like this. It's knitted using intarsia and comes in only 3 sizes, unfortunately. It's knitted with bulky weight yarn in 5 colours. This next design is one that I mentioned earlier as something that's very similar to the QTT. It is the Off-Grid sweater by Rose Knitwear. This is knit using worsted weight yarn and only has 4 sizes, but within those 4 sizes it covers a UK 6 to 20, so I think each size accounts for 2 sizes. This is knit circular from the bottom up using an all-over slip rib. This one is such an eye catcher and looks so difficult, but it's knit using only a combination of knit and purl and slip stitches. I think this would be one that really keeps you entertained while you knit it. Okay, we've reached number 20, and instead of just putting in another pattern here, I want to shout out the idea of just getting a chart and putting it onto a plain sweater pattern that you already have, or possibly that you self-drafted. Mainly this is like a reminder to myself that I can do this, because I have done this already twice, but I do forget that this is an option. There are so many designers out there putting out charts that you can follow with either knitting or crochet, or you can create your own chart using the Chart Rider website. I did this when I wanted to make a knitted baby tee with like a flower logo on it. So if you want to know how I did that and like see the ins and outs of how I created that chart from scratch, I'll link that video so you can watch that. And you can make your own chart either using standard colorwork, which takes a bit of maths to figure out like where to start the chart and how big to make the chart, or you can do it using duplicate stitch and even just embroider a plain sweater that you have already. You can also browse Chartminder or a website called Bracelet Book for charts that other people have made for free that catch your eye. But I also want to shout out a few designers that I love the charts of. So first is this Kafka graph by Say Less Textiles. This is free and it's based on Kafka's The Metamorphosis. I don't know if it's pretentious to walk around with like a Kafka inspired sweater that you've handmade, but I think this is so cool, man. I think this would look so good on just like a plain white stockinette sweater. This designer does so many free cool knitting charts, that some of which are like horror inspired, so I definitely recommend checking them out. And there's another designer called John Elliott Knits that does really cool like wormy cowboy looking charts. I don't really know how to explain it very well, so I'll just put a few on the screen. I don't think these ones are free, but I think this sort of style will appeal to a lot of people. It's kind of giving like patchwork tattoo type vibes, if that's your style. But yeah, like the possibilities are really endless with this, so definitely something to consider. And I did my first stranded colorwork design on a top as like my, I don't know, maybe 4th or 5th ever knitting project, and it wasn't hard. It just took a little bit of forward thinking, so don't be daunted, like you can do it. And yeah, that wraps this up. I'm gonna go straight back into knitting my little colorwork scarf that I've got down here. It's really calling to me. If there's any sweaters that you think really deserve to be on this list that I've missed out, please let me know of it and I will add that to my ever-growing to-knit list. Thanks for taking the time to sit through this list with me. I hope you're having a lovely morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are, and I'll see you soon. Bye!